Hello?
On? Yeah, sounds good.
Is that on? Yeah?
Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
If we could just start with team news issues. A few players. Obviously, Jamie Vardy went off on Saturday. What's the latest with him?
Jamie hasn't trained. I'll give him every opportunity. He's got a tight groin, and that's the reason why he came off. He's had continuous treatment since, but we'll give him every opportunity of being fit, although he won't be one to risk. So we'll assess it tomorrow morning.
Matty James?
Yes, Matty James will not be included, as won't Christian Fuchs. Christian more on specialist advice, really. Christian managed to train today with the team. Matty didn't, although Matty trained outside. And the other one who'll be missing is Robert Huth, who we're really managing at the moment. If you remember, Robert is way ahead of schedule in terms of the operation that he had, and he had a real good start, if you like, till after the operation. But we're just managing him at the moment and taking it carefully with Robert's advice and with the physio's advice.
Are you confident that Vardy should be fit for the weekend, if not tomorrow night?
Yes, very confident, yes. And we're also going to bring two young lads into the squad as well, in Josh Knight, who played before, and Hamza Chowdhury, who will both be involved in the squad for tomorrow.
So are you seeing this game as another chance to maybe play some of your fringe players and your younger players again?
I see it as a very good opportunity to try and get through to the next round, albeit against really difficult opponents. I'm going to make changes, but I also want us to be competitive, as I always say as well. And I think it's a home game. The fans will turn out in their numbers, and we expect as a team to try and progress to the next round.
In terms of the performance on Saturday, you spoke after that and did say that you were off the pace in that game. Does that sort of change your thinking in terms of who you pick for this game as well?
Not really. I think we have to put that one to bed now. As you say, it was well documented what we said after the game there. But this is another opportunity for us as a football club to progress in a cup that we want to do well.
What do you expect from Liverpool? Do you expect them to make a lot of changes? Obviously, they've got the Champions League to consider as well the week after. Yes,
it's a very difficult one to predict. I think Jurgen will obviously have a look at his squad, and he made a lot of changes on Saturday. They've got, as I say, a tough run of games, us twice, and I'm sure he'll consider changes.
He's got a decent record in this competition, but do you expect it to be lower on their priorities this season?
I'm not sure. It's their call. Of course, when you're in the Champions League and the Premier League, it's probably see it as the most important. But we'll have to wait and see.
Is it hard coming into these games, because obviously you're judging them on what you've seen maybe recently in the Premier League, but the team could be very different. So is it kind of hard to know how to approach these games and what to expect from them? I
think it's always about putting your house in order first. I think it's important that we select the right team to try and cause Liverpool problems. It's also very important that we're aware of our own strengths. Of course, the opposition's weaknesses will come into that consideration, but I think it's very important you put your own house in order first.
And you are playing them again so soon on Saturday in the Premier League. So how important is this game in terms of getting a good performance, a good result to take into that game?
It's always important to try and get the performance. Of course, the result sometimes can be the end result, if you like. But we have to try and put it in perspective of we want to try and win every game. As I said before, it's a cup competition that we want to do well in. Of course, then we've got them again on Saturday, and I'm sure we're in for two tough games.
Iheanacho made his first start at the weekend. What did you make to his performance and how he's settling in?
I think it was quite a positive for Kelechi, because I'm not sure he expected to start. His fitness levels have started to improve, his conditioning is starting to improve, and of course by giving him the minutes that we did, hopefully he'll benefit from that as we go forward.
Do you see the sort of the beginnings of what could be a positive partnership with Vardy up front?
I think we were fortunate now to have some array of talent in forward areas. Of course, it's getting the right combination, but it's nice to have that competitive edge, of which Kelechi now is one of the forwards that we can choose from.
And obviously he was one of your summer signings. Onto another that you've had big issues with, Adrian Silva. What's the latest with him? Are you close at all to resolving that?
It's a good question again. I'm not really sure. I'm waiting for an update. The process is still in place. I was expecting an update this morning, but hopefully when I get back, I'll ask the question again.
Is it looking positive?
I'm not sure which way it will go, of course, because I'm not in the hands of that. So I'm waiting, but hopefully he'll be with us soon.
How much of a boost would that be?
I think for the player itself, we spoke about, it's his World Cup year. He's kicking his heels through no fault of his own. And from a manager's point of view, you feel for the player. And
obviously for you to have an extra player in your side, would be hugely important.
Massively, in terms of, he's a proven, he's international, and I'm sure he'll show his pedigree if and when it happens for us.
Demarai Gray, you're offering a new contract to, is that right?
It's in the final instalments, if you like. His advisors are obviously talking with our director of football. I'm expecting that to be completed sooner rather than later.
Why is it important to you to try and tie him down with a new deal?
I think it's important that we show a statement of intent as a football club to keep all our players. And as you say, it was well documented that we had bids for Demarai. We didn't want to sell him. We want to build the football club with players of his ilk, and it's important now, and he's shown a real desire to want to stay and progress his career with his football club. So I think that's important that we can now tie that one up and he can concentrate purely on his football.
Tony Pulis was talking last week about just how unsettling the transfer window had been for some of his players who were subject of bids and interest. Did you find that with Gray? How has he sort of responded from all of that?
No, not particularly with Demarai. I think it can be, I think Tony's speaking on a general terms, and I understand what he means. Of course, we'd all like to not have the speculation and uncertainty, but I think the press conferences would probably last about 5 minutes if we didn't. So I understand from that point of view, you get the questions to ask. And from a manager's point of view, once the season starts, we'd like to have everyone settled.
He's been obviously itching to break into the first team more consistently. Do you think he is close? Do you think we will start to see more of him involved with the first team?
Well, you saw on Saturday he got more minutes, and that's the idea of him. Of course, he's got good players in front of him, and he has to make sure that he contributes to the team, because the team is always more important than the individual. And as I said before, he's an emerging talent that hopefully now we're tying to the football club, and he goes from strength to strength with us. Thank you.
Hi, Craig.
Hi.
Just going back to a couple of the injuries, if you wouldn't mind, is there any time frame on Matty James?
No, I'm really reluctant, because speaking to Matty this morning, he's very frustrated, as you can understand, with what he's been through before, and he wants to get outside and train. And it's very important that he listens to the physios of what the injury is. He's played through the pain threshold before, wants to do that again, and I don't really want to put the lad under that much pressure that he needs to do that. Of course, he was outside this morning, which was really pleasing for everybody and for him, but I think to put a time frame is going to be okay for Saturday. The likelihood is he might be, but without putting too much pressure on the boy, we'll see how each day goes by.
He comes at a time and a position of the park where you must be cursing your luck at the minute. We know that you've had a couple of transfers and the saga with Adrian Silva, and then Matty James' problem as well. And I mean, you brought in Hamza. That's great, but do you curse your luck at any stage at the minute with the middle of the park? You were overrun pre-season with them.
I think you tend to just try and go with the flow, because that's how it is. I think always think there's someone worse off than yourself. You have to be in that situation, of course. And I've said before, I would love a fully fit squad and the competition and the problem that might give me, but it's not. And as you say, you have to just get on with what you've got and what you dealt with.
And the advice for Christian, you said that he trained, but the specialist advice was, I don't know, was it to not train anymore, or was it to not play tomorrow? Just wonder whether you're able to elaborate.
Yeah, it's more of a game in terms of the 90 minutes in a game. And as you say, he trained. The rest of the squad was aware of, if you like, the contact with Christian. Of course, when he's playing in a full-blooded cup tie, you cannot say that to the opposition. So we have to be mindful of where he's at. Although he looked fine this morning. His eyes gone completely down from when it was shut for the first sort of 12 hours. It's a lot better. He seems a lot better in himself. But again, I think by giving him that extra time in terms of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, he'll be fine for Saturday.
But Ben Chilwell hasn't been spoken about a great deal. Well, not from what I've heard or read, but your thoughts on him. And actually, you know, people talk about cup competitions and blooding youngsters and bringing them through. Is Ben Chilwell not a fine example of that, in that, you know, he had his loan periods, he had chances here, and he showed at the weekend he can compete at a very difficult Huddersfield team. How do you think he's faring and stepping up to a Premier League first teamer?
I'm well aware that Ben is another one of those young players that needs the opportunities. He's a talented boy, and as you saw on Saturday, but not just then, before that, we're lucky to have him here because, as you say, I know what he's capable of, and I thought he did reasonably well on Saturday. He will benefit from a run in the team. You can never guarantee anyone a run in the team, but when you're losing someone of Christian Fuchs's ilk, then to have someone like Ben Chilwell bodes the club well.
Are you going to be forced to play one of your first team centre halves tomorrow night? I know Dragovic is fit and available. You mentioned that last week. I don't want to preempt anything, but it would seem he'd be close to being included. But the other spot, with Robert Huth struggling, are Wes or Harry Maguire going to have to fill in again?
They're all in contention, and I will assess it today, tomorrow morning, finalise my team tomorrow.
You mentioned the weaknesses of your opposition. Dare you answer where Liverpool are weak at the moment?
Well, it's very difficult to say because we're not sure of their team. And what I would say is they've got very good strength in depth. They've also got a good crop of youngsters underneath that. And so whoever they play, we need to be mindful that they have a foray of talented offensive players, of course. But we need to be mindful of the whole team, of course. We all know the strength of Liverpool and what they're renowned for. They're a football club that do put cup competitions that show the importance to it. But it'll be an interesting game.
Does playing them in Hong Kong help at all, pre-season?
I don't think so. I think the conditions were very unique out there, very unique. I thought it was a cracking game, to be honest, in terms of what the conditions the players had to deal with, but I don't think it will show any bearing tomorrow night or Saturday.
Ahmed Musa we haven't seen for a while. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, last time might have been in this competition in the previous round. Do you still see that as his platform and that as his opportunity?
No, I see every day as his opportunity to impress in training and force his way through. He'll be involved and in the squad for tomorrow night.
Finally, lots of people on our airwaves are talking about shape of the team, and of course everyone's a brilliant Premier League manager when coming up with their own team and not in the dugout. A question we're being asked and a talking point is, do you have the players to be flexible enough to change your shape, maybe the three in midfield, in the middle of the park, or even at the back? Have you got the personnel to be flexible enough? It's
something we've spoke about at the beginning of the season, being adaptable. It's something as coaches we've spoke about recently in terms of what suits us best. I would never be frightened to change the shape if I think it was needed. But yes, I understand your questioning, because of course it's something I ask myself as a manager with the personnel, what would suit us best. And like I said at the beginning, if we've got everybody fit, it gives me that adaptability. While we haven't got anyone fit, I'll have to go with what I think is best for that occasion.
Finally, Hamza Chowdhury, a player I've seen quite a few times come through the youth ranks. I think he'd relish an opportunity tomorrow night, actually, because he's that kind of player, isn't he? But tell our audience a little bit more about Hamza, what his qualities are, and how much he really does love a tackle.
He really does love a tackle. Some of the first team are aware of that when he's joined in with us. He's a young player that's come through the ranks, more noticeable by his hairstyle, I think, at first than anything else. But when he's trained in with us, he's done reasonably well. And as I said, I'll always ask the under-23s managers of who their best players have been constantly. And he played very well the other night against Arsenal. He's a very combative midfield player, likes to put his foot in. Been out on loan a few times. Went to Burton Albion, did reasonably well there. And as I say, if we can blood these youngsters at the right time, and they deserve the chance. I always spoke before about the opportunity has to be there for them. If the opportunity's there, for him to come in the squad tomorrow shows he's been doing reasonably well. I like to reward the youngsters because I think it's the way to go. Whether he'll start tomorrow night, we'll have to wait and see.
Good luck tomorrow, Shaky.
Thank you.
We'll take one from Linda, please, and then we'll grab the mic. Linda. Has anybody got anything else before we go into embargo after Linda?
Just one, Craig, if that's all right. You won the title a couple of seasons ago. Nice Champions League run last season. How good would a cup run be this year?
Any cup run would be good. I think when you're playing in a cup, you should aim to win it. It should definitely be your thoughts. Of course, I understand in terms of prioritisation. The Premier League now is the most important thing because of the rewards. But I think we're in a cup. Our aim now is to go through tomorrow night. So a cup run, albeit any cup, would be good.
Okay, 10:30 tonight onwards then for everything else.